Next, on Currents News, Mother Cabrini is back home in Brooklyn.
I hope this monument helps to create more missionary disciples.
The statue inspiring others to be more like her in the Diocese of Immigrants. Plus, bishops get the go-ahead to draft a document on the Eucharist. A major win for religious freedom. The Supreme Court sides with a Catholic organization over who it can adopt children to.
Every single Supreme Court justice said that religious freedom is not a second-class right.
And a Catholic family turns its loss into hope for the next generation. The news starts right now. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Mother Frances Cabrini is back in Brooklyn nearly 150 years after working to help New York City's immigrants and poor. After years in the making, a statue of the saint was unveiled on a feast day close to her heart. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from her home parish.
If you ask the Sisters of the Sacred Heart, this is the celebration Mother Cabrini deserves.
I think the parish and the Italians in the Brooklyn Diocese will love it.
On Friday, the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, a statue of Mother Cabrini was unveiled outside of Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary and St. Stephen's Parish in Carroll Gardens. The monument reads, "A woman who helped build New York City." St. Frances Xavier Cabrini was America's first saint. She came to the country from Italy in 1889 and was an advocate for immigrants.
To recognize someone who gave so much of herself, in fact, gave all of herself. I hope this monument helps to create more missionary disciples.
The monument was a long time in the making. In 2019, the city announced Mother Cabrini would not be honored with a statue despite receiving the most nominations for the She Built NYC campaign. But the Diocese of Brooklyn, a community that knew her well, resisted.
My mother went to Sacred Heart School when Mother Cabrini was here. She talked about her often. It really seems to connect me closer with my mother, actually, with all of this going on.
The statue, which took 60 artists and 5 months to create, has hidden symbols, like a piece of luggage to honor her work with immigrants, and this dress, the same one she was wearing in the only known picture of her as a child.
She told her nuns one day, "Jesus gave me his heart and I gave him mine." So that's why I think she had the courage to do so much.
Mother Cabrini will now watch over the streets of the Diocese of Immigrants, her image sending a message to those who come here for a better life.
We showed New York and the world that Mother Cabrini's love for every immigrant of every nation, every color, every faith is out here still doing the work.
Now anyone who passes by the statue will know the woman who helped build New York City did it for Christ. In Carroll Gardens, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The votes are in, and the bishops will draft a teaching document on the Eucharist.
The action passed with a vote of 168 in favor, 55 opposed, 6 abstentions.
The end count comes after over 2 hours of debate yesterday that included the opinions of more than 40 bishops. The draft is expected to be completed by the bishops' November meeting, where they will vote for the document's final approval. And here to talk more about this decision and final day of the meeting is the national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, John Lavenberg. John, so nice to have you here again.
Happy to be here, Christine.
So, John, we finally got the results of the Eucharistic document after all that waiting and debate on Thursday. And the motion actually passed with a 75% vote, which is more than the 2/3 majority needed to pass the final document. So a lot of people thought that outcome was going to be more divided, but that's not really what happened, is it?
That's not what happened, actually. And, you know, Bishop Kevin Rose, who's the head of the doctrinal committee, he led this discussion, and he went through an outline of what they have for the drafted document. He talked about that this is for all Catholics, doesn't call out anyone in particular, especially politicians, and that it is a teaching document for all Catholics, and that drafting this will help them have a better conversation on how to move forward. That was the sentiment that a lot of bishops had. Cardinal Daniel DiNardo said that drafting document, like many others, is better for furthering discussion and will allow these conversations to actually take place. Detractors of this, they spoke about the timing as well, saying it's too soon, and they also said that they think there's political motivations or possible political motivations behind the timing of doing this, and that President Joe Biden could be at the center of this with his pro-choice beliefs.
Right. Okay. So now a quick reminder to our viewers, the decision on who can receive communion rests with an individual bishop, not a bishop's conference. The purpose of the document was heavily questioned yesterday, right?
It was, and that goes back to what Kevin Rose was talking about, the fact that this is a teaching document. It's not meant to call it anyone in particular, whether that's House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, President Joe Biden, whose names have come up repeatedly with this, or any Catholic at all. This is for all Catholics. It's a teaching document, and as Bishop Rhodes also pointed out, canon law, canon 915, makes it clear that a bishop's conference doesn't have the power to vote on whether or not any individual Catholic can get communion. That rests with the local bishop. Right. In this case, with President Biden, for example, that's Cardinal Wilton Gregory, who has already said he will not do that, and he was one of the dissenters of this document.
Interesting. All right. So the bishops are moving forward with this draft. So tell us about the work that's going to go into it between now and November.
So what happens over this next 5 months is obviously the doctrinal committee, they're going to meet, they're going to draft this document. But what they're also going to do, they're going to consult a number of other USCCB committees. They're going to consult a number of bishops. There's been many suggestions for bishops to meet in a regional fashion to talk about this amongst themselves and then send those back to the committee to incorporate that as well. And then I imagine things from this past week as well will be incorporated into that document.
All right, let's talk quickly about some of the other topics they approved, such as the 2 motions on youth and family life.
Sure. So those are pastoral frameworks. Both were approved, and they come from the Committee on Laity, Marriage, Family Life, and Youth. And what those are is they're pastoral frameworks for the future. So in the case of the marriage one, for example, that'll be in part a comprehensive look into how to minister to married couples.
All right. And the final day's topic of discussion is a big one for us, immigration. Tell us about that.
Sure. So Auxiliary Bishop Mario Dorsonville and Bishop Mark Seitz, they both spoke about a meeting that happened at the beginning of June between U.S. bishops, Mexican bishops, and Central American bishops, as well as a number of other organizations. They spoke about that meeting, what came out of it. Bishop Dorsonville, he mentioned a welcome, advocacy, and root causes as 3 topics that came out of that meeting. He also said that this administration needs to uphold their commitment to immigration reform. Bishop Mark Seitz also had an interesting comment where he said that he expects there will be an increase in the number of migrants that come to the United States in the next few months from Central America, and therefore dioceses need to be ready to welcome these migrants with open arms and be there for them as they make this transition and figure out what their next steps are.
All right, John Lavenberg, so nice to have you with me the past few days, and we look forward to reading everything you write in the tablet. And Crux, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Christine. Happy to be here.
The U.S. Supreme Court making 2 major rulings this week. First, the High Court threw out a challenge to the Affordable Care Act. Then, the justices unanimously sided with a Catholic foster care agency in Philadelphia, saying the city violated the First Amendment when it froze its contract with Catholic Social Services. The agency, which was receiving taxpayer funds, says it does not work with same-sex couples who want to be foster parents because of its religious objections. Sharon L. Fulton, a plaintiff in the case and a Catholic foster mother herself, responded to the ruling saying, quote, "I am overjoyed that the Supreme Court recognized the important work of Catholic Social Services and has allowed me to continue fostering children most in need of a loving home. My faith is what drives me to care for foster children here in Philadelphia, and I thank God the Supreme Court believes that's a good thing, worthy of protection." The Archbishop of Philadelphia is also responding to the ruling.
It is my personal hope that today's decision makes it abundantly clear that religious ministries cannot be forced to abandon their beliefs as the price for ministering to those in need.
Catholic Social Services of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia has been serving the city for over 200 years, ensuring the city's most vulnerable children have every opportunity to find loving homes. The Knights of Columbus officially has a new commander at the forefront.
I am proud to install you as Supreme Knight of the Order of the Knights of Columbus.
Patrick Kelly now leads the fraternal organization as the 14th Supreme Knight. He previously served as the Deputy Supreme Knight. Currents News spoke with Mr. Kelly shortly after his installation at St. Mary's Parish in New Haven about the new job and the push to get the faithful back to church.
We are very, very committed to getting our parishes and helping our pastors get parishioners back in the pews after COVID. We're coming out of COVID, and I think many people got out of the habit of going to church on Sundays. And so the Knights of Columbus is committed to helping our pastors with that and doing a myriad of things to really help our parishes recover and get us back to normal.
The Knights of Columbus has been helping their communities and parishes all throughout the pandemic with their No Neighbor Left Behind program. You may not have had the day off, but Friday was a federal holiday, Juneteenth. On Thursday, President Joe Biden signed a bill establishing June 19th as Juneteenth National Independence Day, a day to commemorate the end of slavery in the United States. Since the 19th falls on a Saturday, governors across the country scrambled to make plans for state offices for Friday. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo had already made it a holiday for state workers, but city workers did not have the day off this year. Either way, President Biden suggested the holiday be a day of action. Early voting is underway in New York City and polls open on Tuesday, but the race for mayor is getting even tighter. According to a poll conducted by the Marist Institute for Public Opinion, Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams is in the lead with 24%, following behind Catherine Garcia at 17%. In third is former council to current mayor Bill de Blasio Maya Wiley. She has 15%. And in fourth is former presidential candidate Andrew Yang with 13%. If you're on the fence about who to vote for, no worries. The Diocese of Brooklyn sent each candidate a questionnaire with topics important to Catholic voters, and it will be available in this week's tablet. Currents News spoke with Bishop DiMarzio about why he decided on the initiative.
I would say most of them came back with very positive answers, which is good. That means that whoever gets in seems to understand our issues. One of them was equal treatment to our children and our Catholic schools, equal treatment on having nurses in the schools and security, all the issues that really touch us a lot. They all came back saying positive. Let's see, we'll hold their feet to the fire if whoever gets in. You said you believed in it, you were going to do it, so we have to work on that.
Again, that Diocese of Brooklyn questionnaire will be in this coming edition of the tablet, which you can either pick up in church or subscribe to it at thetablet.org. There's a lot more news headed your way. Turning pain into joy. A Catholic family's loss has become some Catholic students' gains. We'll explain. Plus, the city that never sleeps is getting a chapel that never closes, the plan to better serve the faithful in this trying time. And 3 families of fallen firefighters mark a somber anniversary with Mass, how their faith has carried them for the past 20 years. A Queens woman is working to keep her son's memory alive. Helen DiPietra's son, William, died from cancer 4 years ago. And since then, she's created a foundation to give scholarships to students at his former Catholic schools. Currents News' Emily Druby spoke with her and the students being helped by William's legacy.
The scholarships are awarded to Genesis Camellia and Trevor Beer.
$1,000 scholarships for 2 graduating St. Elizabeth Catholic Academy students. Big money, inspired by big loss. When went to valedictorian Trevor Beer.
It definitely is a good feeling getting a scholarship, especially from that cause.
The cause? A family's love for their late son.
He was our best friend. It's hard. It's still hard.
The hardest thing in the world. In 2017, Helen DiPietra lost her only child, William. A brain tumor took the 42-year-old's life.
Oh, here's a nice picture.
Pieces of him still fill her home. A photo of his FDNY EMT uniform, a Star Wars figurine, one of many he collected, handwritten notes from the film he was working on. Pieces of Bill's legacy.
Everything's just as he left it.
In the 4 years he's been gone, his mother created another legacy, the William F. DiPietra Foundation, inspired by an award given out by his film grad school, LIU.
I said, we should do something like that.
So they did, starting the foundation, using private donations and money from selling Bill's many collectibles to help fund it. The foundation supports 2 of Bill's loves, FDNY causes, and the arts, scholarships and grants for the places he went to school, including St. Elizabeth's, targeting filmmakers, drama clubs, and students involved in the arts.
I feel like Bill's Catholic education, his Catholic upbringing, made him the person that he was. And I just try to carry on the way he would want me to.
Helen taught at St. Elizabeth's for 29 years. It's where she met now principal Jean Shannon.
Her whole purpose in life is to support this foundation and to secure her son's legacy.
In only 3 years, the foundation has given out about $50,000.
It's sad sometimes, but I know he'd be proud of me.
With her son close to her heart, Helen has turned one of the greatest tragedies in life into a lasting legacy. In Howard Beach, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
For more information on how to donate, visit WFDfound.com. The first ever perpetual adoration chapel is coming to New York City. The 24/7 chapel will soon be built in a music room at the rectory of St. Joseph's Church on 6th Avenue in Manhattan. That area is seeing unrest right now, but church leaders hope having the chapel near Washington Square Park will help ease tension and end the chaos through God's love.
His mercy is going to go right through that Eucharist into the entire neighborhood. And so yeah, I almost can guarantee that you're going to see a slow change with the violence and everything that's been happening around here.
Construction is expected to start by the end of the summer and the chapel finished in time for Easter. 2 decades since a fire ripped 3 Catholic families apart, they are coming together to remember the fathers and husbands lost that day. On June 17th, 2001, Father's Day, a massive fire at a Queens hardware store killed 3 of New York's bravest. Their families also living up to that title as they use their faith to stay together all these years later. Currents News' Emily Druby is in Woodside with the somber anniversary mass.
Remembering 3 of New York's bravest. Harry Ford, Brian Fahey, and John Downing, heroes, all killed fighting a fire on June 17, 2001. Their 3 widows, families, friends, and fellow firefighters gathered at St. Sebastian's in Woodside, Queens on the 20th anniversary of their deaths to remember the 3 Catholic men lost while fighting what's now been dubbed the Father's Day fire. Lieutenant Nicholas D'Alessandro was there.
Well, it was a beautiful day, Sunday, Father's Day. We were all anxious to go home.
But that's not what happened. Instead, Lieutenant Nicholas and many other firefighters were called here to what was an Astoria hardware store where a 5-alarm fire was blazing. Harry, Brian, and John were killed in an explosion. These wreaths were laid in remembrance 2 decades later.
The fire department is one big family, all 5 boroughs, and you feel the loss sincerely in your heart, and it never goes away.
Following the wreath laying, members of the fire department filled the pews of St. Sebastian's, where John Downing was a parishioner, for a special mass. A place for both family and friends to reflect.
Brian was a cheerful, jolly guy, very knowledgeable. He was a natural-born teacher.
Lieutenant George Torres is from Rescue 4, just like Harry and Brian.
It's really heartwarming just to see how many people from the parish remember, come out to remember, and Thanksgiving for the sacrifice that they made in protecting us.
Remembering those who made the ultimate sacrifice to protect New Yorkers. In Woodside, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
The widows say June 17th was such a tragedy, but although they lost their husbands, they believe they gained beautiful sisters. Still to come on Currents News, bring on the bugs, the unique way centuries-old sculptures are being cleaned. And why the cathedral school that houses this all-boys choir has girls singing for joy. You can help rebuild the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral. The Archdiocese of Paris is asking for donations to help bring much-needed updates to the landmark ahead of its 2024 opening. They're looking for up to 6 million euros for the project. That's a little more than $7 million. More than 85 million euros, or $105 million, have already been received or pledged for the overall rebuilding of the 13th century cathedral, which was destroyed by a massive fire in April of 2019. All donations are being accepted through the Friends of Notre Dame de Paris. A cathedral in Germany that's home to a 1,000-year-old boys' choir is about to see some big changes. Starting next year, the school, home to the Regensburger Domspatzen Choir, will open to girls. The school in the southern German city of Regensburg will form its own girls' choir. The diocese explained that the step was intended to make the high-quality musical training of this institution accessible to girls in the future. The Board of Trustees decided unanimously that the cathedral choir, which dates back to 975, would remain just a boys' and men's choir. In Florence, the Medici chapels at the Basilica of San Lorenzo are filled with some of Michelangelo's greatest masterpieces. But time has taken its toll on the art, as many sculptures are stained and discolored. Melissa Corsi has the story of how an all-women team of experts brought in some creepy crawlers to help restore them.
Normally, people try to remove bugs from inside places, but not the Medici chapels. They are actually bringing them in to clean 16th century sculptures by Michelangelo. As the coronavirus raged in Italy, experts and museum directors were secretly trying to figure out how to clean the massive sarcophaguses inside San Lorenzo Church, created by Michelangelo as a final resting place for the Medici family in the 1520s. Glue, oil, and phosphates, residue from years of copying the statues, proved hard to remove, but they just happened to be the ideal feast for dirt-eating microbes. Monica Bietti, who came up with the idea, says first scientists had to photograph the Carrara marble to discover its material makeup. Once we understood the type of material, the scientists at the National Research Council in Italy selected multiple bacteria that were compatible and could eat the stains. The scientists tested the 8 bacteria behind the altar. The 3 they chose selectively and gradually eliminated the dirt without touching the marble. They even left a small square to show what it looked like before the bugs had their fill. The mission was a success, the marble once again boasting its clarity, luminosity, and natural beauty. The bacteria did their job wonderfully. We hope that the bacteria will never have to be applied again. Pope Leo X, the first Medici pope, hired Michelangelo to design the mausoleum in 1513. During the cleaning process, it appears the grime was traced back to one improperly buried body, Alessandro Medici. The assassinated ruler in Florence was not disemboweled before being laid to rest in 1535, leaving his remains to stain the chapel for nearly 5 centuries.
That was Melissa Corsi reporting. It took 8 years for the all-female team of museum directors, art restorers, and scientists to complete the cleanup. And that's it for this special edition of Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. I hope to see you again next time.